I still remember the moment she told me to leave. It wasn't screaming or shouting. Not that night. Just a cold, measured statement, like she had rehearsed it for weeks. You need to leave. Now. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My own home, our home, where I had built memories, paid bills, fixed leaks, and planned futures, suddenly felt foreign. She had crossed a line I never thought she would, turning the life we shared into a battlefield. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. Not because I was scared, but because I knew in that moment that any fight would be meaningless. Not if her mind was already made up. I gathered what I could. Clothes, essentials, my laptop, a few personal items that couldn't be replaced. As I walked out the door, I felt an odd calm wash over me. The storm of betrayal and confusion raged inside, but my steps were deliberate, my mind strangely clear. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I simply left, leaving the house in her hands, or at least I let her think she had claimed it. But before I left, I did something. Something small. Something she would notice only later. I wrote a note. Not a long one. Not angry. Not begging or pleading. Just 3 sentences. Clear, precise, honest. I know what you've done. I'm hurt, but I will not break. This house will not hold what we lost. I left it tucked under the kitchen mat where she would see it. The kind of note you notice not because it shouts, but because it quietly commands attention. Days passed. At first she didn't mention it. She called friends, arranged her schedule, tried to reclaim the normalcy she expected after kicking me out. But the note lingered. It settled in the corners of the house, quietly growing heavier with each passing hour. Finally, she confronted me. She hadn't seen me in the apartment since that night, assuming I had vanished entirely. I returned, not to reclaim anything, but because I wanted her to see that I wasn't gone, not in the way she thought. "Why are you here?" she asked, defensive. "I thought you left for good." I smiled faintly, calm and unshaken. "I never really left," I said. "Not completely. And I wanted you to know what you did." Her face shifted. Confusion first, then realization, then something like fear. She remembered the note, the 3 sentences, how they had settled in her mind while she tried to convince herself that kicking me out was victory. I didn't think," she began, voice wavering. "You underestimated me," I said simply. "You thought kicking me out would erase me, but it didn't. It only showed me who I am and what I'm willing to stand for." She swallowed, eyes darting to the kitchen mat. "The note. Yes," I said. "I left it for a reason. To remind you that my value isn't defined by your actions, and to remind myself that some battles are won without shouting or violence." For the first time, she didn't have an answer. Her usual defenses, blame, manipulation, deflection, didn't work. Not against clarity, not against quiet, unwavering presence. Over the next few weeks, the dynamic between us shifted. She reached out, trying to negotiate, to explain, to regain control. But I didn't respond the way she expected. I listened, I observed, and I acted only when I chose to, not when she demanded. It was in that space, the gap between her expectation and my reality, that I realized something profound. Betrayal, anger, and cruelty only have the power you give them. When you step back, when you refuse to react impulsively, you reclaim the narrative of your life. Eventually, she admitted things. Not everything, but enough. Enough to show that her confidence in kicking me out had been built on the assumption that I would crumble. I hadn't. And that was the moment everything changed. I didn't storm in. I didn't humiliate her. I didn't scream or demand apologies. I simply lived my life in the clarity and strength that her actions had forced me to find. The house, our home, was no longer a cage for resentment. It was a witness to what had been, and a reminder of what could be, now that I had drawn my own lines. Sometimes the smallest gestures, 3 sentences written on a piece of paper, can carry more weight than 1,000 arguments. They can unsettle, awaken, and change everything without raising a single voice. She had kicked me out, thinking she had power. I showed her quietly that the power had never been hers to take. And in that quiet reclamation, I found more than victory. I found freedom.